To them, I was a dog, a puppet they could discard at will. It wasn't until my wife, Claire, sacrificed our unborn child for the man she truly loved that I finally woke up. In that moment I understood that my 3 years of quiet humiliation had been nothing more than a sick joke. What they didn't know was that in destroying that child, they had shattered every chain holding me down. Now, the game begins. I'm going to make them watch as the worthless trash they despised reclaims his dignity, step by painful step. I'm going to make them pay the ultimate price for their arrogance and their cruelty. When my friend told me he'd overheard Claire at the clinic telling her old flame, Julian Vance, that she would never have a child with me, that she would wait for him to get his divorce, my world turned to ice. In that instant I felt no pain, only a profound, bone-deep cold, as if the blood in my veins had frozen solid. Tears streamed down my face, not for my sham of a marriage, but for the child I would never meet, a life extinguished before it ever saw the light of day. From that moment on, I was done being their punching bag. Looking back, my relationship with Claire felt like a meticulously crafted illusion. I met her while traveling. She was vibrant and beautiful, and showered me with attention, so tender I fell for her completely. Then came the proposal, but with a catch. I had to marry into her family. The Thompsons are wealthy, she explained, and I can't bear to move away. Blinded by love, I foolishly agreed. For 3 years, I never spent a single dime of the Thompsons' money. I handled all the housework, treated her parents with painstaking respect, and in return, I was met with daily ridicule and insults. I was their live-in help, the family pet. Claire herself was always on guard, terrified I might get her pregnant. I was naive enough to believe they just needed time to trust me, that if I gave enough of myself I could eventually win them over. I even blew my entire savings on lavish gifts for them, only to watch them toss my offerings aside like garbage. Then came the night Claire got drunk and, in a rare moment of abandon, pulled me into her bed and told me she wanted a baby. I was ecstatic, thinking she had finally truly accepted me. But the next morning I was met not with affection, but with the sting of her palm across my face and the venomous curses of her parents. They called me a conniving bastard, accusing me of scheming to trap their daughter for the family fortune. That's when I first understood. In this house I would always be an outsider. The news from the clinic finally shattered my last illusion. She had never loved me. The light of her life, the one she truly wanted, had always been Julian Vance, the golden boy of Vance Corporation. I just couldn't understand why, if that was the case, she had ever asked me to marry her in the first place. 2 weeks later, she came home from the hospital. I looked at her. My voice was still and dead as a frozen lake. Why? Her face was a mask of impatience. I was just angry at Julian, that's all. Did you really think I was in love with you? You. So that was it. Julian had gotten married, and despite him she'd picked me, a convenient tool to soothe her wounded pride. Just a tool, I repeated, a cold laugh escaping my lips as I turned and walked back to the guest room that served as my bedroom. I hated myself for my own stupidity, but I hated her more for her cruelty. I lay awake all night thinking, I might not be a high roller, but I can make a life for myself, a perfectly fine one. I had never wanted the Thompson family's money, but she had killed my child. Fine. If they all saw me as a worthless gold digger, then that's exactly who I would become. The next morning, after showering, I walked straight to the dining room, sat down, and started eating breakfast. My mother-in-law came downstairs and froze, her brow furrowing in rage. Have you forgotten your manners? We haven't even sat down yet. How dare a man who married into this family start eating first? I shot her a cold smirk and deliberately picked up a piece of her favorite Belgian waffle, popping it into my mouth. She exploded, rolling up her sleeves. She swung a fist at my head. Thud. I shot to my feet and shoved her. She stumbled backward, landing on the floor in an undignified heap, and immediately started wailing Claire's name. Claire came running down the stairs, helped her mother up, and glared at me. Ethan, are you out of your mind? How could you lay a hand on my mother? My eyes drifted to her flat stomach. A mocking smile played on my lips. I said nothing, just lowered my head and continued eating. I was an outsider, someone on their way out. No one was going to push me around ever again. Perhaps feeling a sliver of guilt, Claire didn't argue further. She just helped her mother out of the house to eat elsewhere. I looked at the elaborate spread of food on the table and methodically tried a bit of everything. Ethan, have you no shame? Stop eating that. I made it for Mrs. and Miss Thompson, the housekeeper, a woman who always relished bad-mouthing me to the family, snapped as she emerged from the kitchen, reaching to clear the plates. Smack. My backhand caught her across the cheek, sending her staggering. I'm still the son-in-law of this house, I said, my voice low and dangerous. You will show me some respect. Know your place. You're the help. Stay out of family business. I'd put up with her for years. She had dumped all her chores on me the day I arrived and spent her time spreading gossip. Now that I no longer cared what the Thompsons thought, I certainly wasn't going to take anything from her. She clutched her face, a mixture of shock and fury in her eyes. But she didn't dare approach me again. I finished my breakfast at a leisurely pace, even pouring myself a glass of wine. On my way out, I snatched the keys to my father-in-law's gleaming black Mercedes from the hook by the door. In 3 years of marriage, I'd never even been allowed to sit in the passenger seat. I drove it straight to the most expensive shopping district downtown. I pulled out the platinum card Claire had given me when we got married, a flashy gesture, a card I'd never once used, and proceeded to spend $20,000 in a single day. I bought rounds for every beautiful woman in the bar, basking in their admiring gazes. Spending money like this felt damn good. It turns out that with enough money, you really could do whatever you wanted. Lying on the king-size bed in a 5-star hotel that night, I thought, I'm getting divorced sooner or later. Might as well experience a taste of paradise first. A week later, when I rolled the Mercedes back into the Thompsons' driveway, the three of them were waiting for me, their faces like thunder, blocking the entrance like stone gargoyles. I parked the car, tossed the keys to my father-in-law, and made sure they got a good look at the lipstick smears on my face and neck. Great car, I said with a laugh. A real head-turner, if you know what I mean. Haha, Ethan, you stole my father's car, and you've been out fooling around, spending money on other women. You've gone too far, my father-in-law spat. Claire lunged at me, pounding her fists against my chest. My mother-in-law shrieked. Claire, cancel his car now. He blew through 30 grand in a week. How much money do you think we have for him to waste? Claire, just married Julian already. Having this piece of trash in our house is a disgrace to the Thompson name. My father-in-law finally dropped all pretense and laid his cards on the table. Looking at their disgusted faces, I just snorted, stuffed my hands in my pockets, and walked past them into the guest room. Let them rage. I was going to get some sleep. When I woke up, I lay in bed, plotting my next surprise for Claire and Julian. Just then, a video notification popped up on my phone. The video showed Julian and Claire locked in a passionate kiss on a street somewhere in Europe. I could tell from the date on a digital billboard in the background. It had been filmed just a few days after she'd gotten rid of our child. Interesting, I murmured with a smirk. This was no paparazzi shot. It had to have been leaked by Julian himself, a move to force his own wife into a divorce. I put my phone away and went downstairs to find something to eat. Don't go out. I saved you some breakfast, Claire said suddenly from the living room couch as I appeared. I'm not fit to eat the Thompsons' food. A greasy spoon diner is more my speed, I said, adjusting my collar and heading for the door. To my surprise, she followed me. I walked into the first diner I saw. She sat down in the booth across from me, her eyes fixed on my face. Hey, handsome, is your wife on a diet? The waitress asked with a friendly smile as she set down my pancakes and coffee. No, I replied, smiling back. She just can't stomach cheap food like this. Claire's face flushed crimson. You're not going out to party again today, are you? She asked, her voice tight. Can't say for sure. If one of the girls from the other night calls, I can't just stand her up. I gave her a deliberate wink. Julian's video was out there. A divorce was inevitable. Why should I sit at home and mope? I was going to live up as a playboy for as long as I could. After breakfast, as we walked out onto the street, she grabbed my wrist. Don't go, Ethan. Have you even considered my feelings? I'm still your wife. How can you go out with other women every day? Wife. I laughed as if it were the funniest joke I'd ever heard and yanked my arm from her grasp. You stopped being my wife the moment you sacrificed our child. I hailed a cab and left her standing there, stunned and alone on the sidewalk. Over the next few days, Julian's video was, as expected, taken down. I did some digging and heard he was trying to divorce his wife, but she was the daughter of another powerful family and was fighting him tooth and nail. Things were getting ugly. This, I thought, was a perfect opportunity. I paid someone to release the video my friend had taken at the clinic, the one showing Claire and Julian going in together on the day our child's life was ended. The internet erupted. The video went viral, shooting to the top of the trending topics on Twitter. Now, even if Julian didn't care about the scandal, there was no way his high society wife would ever swallow this humiliation. This was the first down payment on the debt they owed my unborn child. I had barely stepped through the door at home when the Thompsons tribunal began. Did you leak that video? You just can't stand to see my daughter happy, can you? My mother-in-law screamed, pointing a trembling finger at my face. Letting you marry into this family was the greatest honor of your life. Instead of being grateful, you dragged my daughter's name through the mud. Are you even human? My father-in-law bellowed, his fists clenched in fury. Claire said nothing. She just stood there, her eyes red-rimmed, staring at me with an intensity that could burn holes. An honor. I laughed. I didn't come to the Thompson family for money. I came because I thought Claire loved me, and for that I was willing to endure anything. But how did she repay me? This was her own doing. It had nothing to do with me. Without another word, I turned my back on them and went to my room. Divorce was coming. There was nothing more to say. Late that night, there was a soft knock on my door. I opened it to find Claire standing there, her gaze darting away, unable to meet my eyes. What is it? My voice was ice. It's been 2 weeks, aren't you, coming back to the master bedroom? I'm just the outsider who's about to be kicked out. I'm fine here. Just let me know when you want to sign the papers. I started to close the door. She pressed her hand against it, holding it open. Her voice was trembling, pleading. When did I ever say I wanted a divorce? Husband, please come back to our room. It was the first time she had ever called me that, with such desperation. I let out a cold, humorless laugh. You got the wrong guy. Julian's your husband. Slam. I forced the door shut. From the other side, I could faintly hear the sound of her muffled sobs. In the days that followed, her parents' attitude toward me soured even further, escalating into screaming matches nearly every time we were in the same room. Ethan, you were never like this. How did you become so disrespectful, you punk? I was blind to let my daughter marry a useless piece of trash like you. I calmly took a bottle of juice from the fridge, settled onto the couch, and watched them with a faint smile. The old Ethan is dead. The only reason I ever showed you respect was for Claire's sake. Did you really think I give a damn about your money? That shut them up. He was right. A son-in-law who didn't care about their fortune was a man they had no leverage over. Watching them tremble with rage, utterly powerless, I felt a flicker of grim satisfaction. That night I saw on the news that Julian Vance and his wife had officially divorced. He's finally free, I murmured to the night sky, a strange sense of excitement building inside me. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Julian himself showed up at the door. The way Claire's parents fawned over him, bowing and scraping, was nauseating. Mr. Vance, please have a seat. Claire will be right back. Julian ignored them. He walked straight up to me, his eyes dripping with contempt. So, you're Ethan, he said with a smirk. I'm sure you know about me and Claire by now. She only married you to get back at me. I'm the one she's always wanted. She even got rid of your kid for me. If you know what's good for you, you'll pack your bags and get lost. Don't embarrass yourself by sticking around. Crack. Before he could finish a sentence, my fist connected squarely with his jaw. I tackled him, slamming him to the floor, and rained punch after punch down on him. Every blow was for my dead child. His pampered body was no match for my rage. In moments, he was a blubbering, bruised mess on the marble floor. If Claire's parents hadn't thrown themselves between us, I think I might have killed him right then and there. Ethan, you're insane. Are you trying to commit murder? My mother-in-law shrieked, her voice cracking with terror. Just then Claire walked in. She didn't see a pathetic, beaten Julian. She saw the inferno of rage in my eyes and the so-called love of her life cowering behind her parents. In that moment I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before, not disgust, not pity, but shock and maybe even a flicker of doubt. CLA, I'm divorced now. Let's get engaged, Julian managed to say, clutching his bleeding nose. But Claire's eyes were locked on me. I met her gaze and said flatly, don't worry, I'll go with you to file the papers tomorrow. Whatever we had was over. I had nothing left to stay for her. I'm not getting a divorce, Claire said suddenly, her voice quiet but cutting through the tension in the room. Everyone froze. Darling, what are you talking about? Why will we keep this loser around? Her mother demanded. 5. Claire, don't be foolish. Our business deal with the Vance family depends on you, her father added frantically. Julian looked utterly bewildered. He stepped forward and took her hand. Claire, is this low life threatening you? Don't worry. I'll have my people take care of. Get off me. Claire ripped her hand away, her voice sharp with revulsion. Don't you ever touch me again, Julian. My husband will get angry. Now I was stunned. I had no idea what kind of game she was playing. I sighed, a wave of exhaustion washing over me. Claire, it's over between us. Stop playing games. Let's just get the divorce. I turned to go back to my room. She rushed in after me and locked the door behind us. Thump. She dropped to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face like a broken dam. I was wrong, Ethan. I was so wrong, she cried. I realized I've fallen in love with you. I can't live without you. Please don't divorce me. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. It was laughable. The woman who personally orchestrated the death of our child was now kneeling before me, professing her love. How cheap was her love? The man you want is waiting for you outside, I said coldly. Whatever was between us ended the day you walked into that clinic. If you think I'm going to keep playing the role of your loyal dog, you're mistaken. I pulled her to her feet and shoved her out of the room. I didn't care how loudly she cried or how fiercely she argued with her parents. I didn't open the door again. For the next 3 days, she tried everything to win me back. Apologies, expensive gifts, desperate pleas. I was so sick of it that I finally dragged her down to the city clerk's office myself. Honey, please, let's not do this. We can move out, get our own place. I'll do anything you want, she cried, dropping to her knees on the sidewalk and clinging to my leg, drawing a crowd of onlookers. But I felt nothing. I was numb. I stood firm and finalized the divorce. The moment the clerk handed me the divorce decree, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. I packed a small bag, left without taking a dime of their money, and started a new life on my own. I drove to the coast and rented a small apartment, planning to stay for a while, find a simple job, and clear my head. But when I got back to my place that night, my brow furrowed in disbelief. There, leaning against my door under the dim hallway light, was Claire. She was poured into a skin-tight, sexy, black dress, her figure stunning, her expression one of manufactured vulnerability. Honey, you're back. I missed you, she said, forcing a weak, placating smile. I opened my door without a word, intending to shut it in her face, but she threw herself against it, trying to squeeze inside like a woman possessed. Claire, we are divorced. Have some damn self-respect, I growled, my patience finally snapping. This woman had told me to my face that she would never have my child, that she would only ever wait for Julian. Those words were burned into my memory. All I felt for her now was hate. Honey, I've cut ties with Julian completely. He'll never bother us again. Please, just forgive me. This one time, she begged, her beautiful eyes shimmering with tears. I said nothing. I just used all my strength to push her back out into the hall and slam the door shut. The next day, I decided to walk down to the local food truck park, hoping to recapture some of the simple freedom of being single. I'd barely reached the corner when I nearly collided with a young couple who were all over each other. "Watch where you're going. Get away from us, you lonely creep," the girl snapped. "What are you looking at? You want to start something?" her boyfriend added, puffing out his chest and grabbing the front of my shirt. I was about to lose my temper when Claire appeared out of nowhere, pulling me behind her. The couple's bravado deflated slightly when they got a look at her. "Are you trying to shake him down for money?" Claire asked, not waiting for an answer. She opened her purse, pulled out a thick wad of cash, at least $2,000, and threw it in their faces. "Is this enough?" The pair scrambled to pick up the bills and scurried away. I ignored the envious stares from passers-by, shook my head in disgust, and kept walking. "See, honey? Without me, people will bully you," Claire said, sticking to me like glue as she followed behind. "I'll give you lots of babies to make up for the one we lost. Okay? How's that sound?" I wanted to laugh in her face, as if the humiliation I'd suffered at the hands of her family wasn't the worst bullying of all. For the next few days, she was my shadow. Everywhere I went, she was there. One day, I went hiking, and by some stroke of luck, I ran into Sophie Miller, the one that got away. We'd known each other in college, and I'd had a massive crush on her. I'd heard she was still single, and my heart gave a hopeful leap. We fell into an easy conversation, hiking all the way to the summit together. We were sitting side by side on a large rock, catching our breath, the atmosphere perfect. "Ethan, you know her?" A breathless voice shattered the moment. It was Claire, having somehow managed to climb all the way up after us. "You have a sister?" "She's beautiful," Sophie said, smiling a little awkwardly. "Cousin, she's my cousin," I said quickly. But Sophie's expression had already shifted. I knew in that instant that whatever chance I might have had was gone. That night, back at my apartment, I finally exploded. "Claire, what the hell do you want from me? Can you just leave me alone? You ruined my one chance at happiness." "You want her?" Claire's eyes lit up with a manic gleam. "What if I help you get her?" she said with a sly grin. "If I do that for you, will you agree to remarry me?" I thought she had lost her mind. But I never, ever would have imagined that later that same night, Sophie Miller would actually knock on my door. Her cheeks were flushed as she told me she'd always admired me. And then one thing led to another. The next morning, Sophie was curled up against my chest. "Ethan," she whispered, "Claire is a good person. She really, really loves you. You should give her another chance." I froze. A deep, spreading chill crept up from the pit of my stomach. I looked at Sophie, and for a split second, her eyes flickered with something off. I understood. I calmly got out of bed, put on my clothes, and walked into the living room. Claire was sitting on the couch, watching me with a look of smug triumph. Satisfied, I asked her, "As long as you remarry me, I'll give you anything you want," she said, standing up to embrace me. I took a step back, dodging her touch. "Claire," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, "do you know what your biggest problem is? You honestly believe money can buy anything. You can pay Sophie to put on a show for you, but you can't buy back my heart. And you sure as hell can't buy back our dead child." My words struck her like a physical blow. The color drained from her face, leaving it a ghastly white. "Now you can get out," I said, pointing to the door, my voice final. "From this moment on, stay out of my life. Your love is filthy, and I don't want it." Then I took out my phone. Right in front of her, I called Sophie and put her on speaker. "Sophie, I just have one question for you. How much did Claire pay you?" The line was silent for a long, heavy moment. Then a choked, sobbing voice came through the speaker. $50,000. Claire's body swayed, and she crumpled to the floor. I ended the call without giving her another glance. I walked out of that suffocating apartment. The sun was rising, blinding. I was finally free.